Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our session and welcome. My name is Christophe. I work at Roche in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm very happy to be here with my colleague Muller, who is also working in the pharma industry with me in data analytics and research. And we're here today to talk about our quest for a silver bullet MLOps solution for enterprise. Spoiler alert, we have not really found it, but on the way while searching and implementing some solutions, we've learned a lot. And we would like to share some of this back to the community and hopefully open the floor for some dialogue. So we'll be very happy to take any questions in the chat, but we're going to go run through the presentation first and address them at the end. So I'm going to be starting by giving a brief introduction about what we do in pharma research and why we need MLOps, why it was complex for us to actually implement MLOps. And Muller is going to follow up with more details and information about the key learnings from our implementation of an MLOps platform in pharma, and then we'll open for questions. So thanks, Muller, for changing the slide. So as mentioned, we are working in pharmaceutical research. And in pharma, our mission is to come up with new drugs, new medicines for patients. And more specifically, in pharma research, our mission is to transform science into medicine. And if you go to the next slide, Mila, please. Yeah, perfect. I would like to give a very high-level overview of the drug discovery and early development process, right? And as mentioned in the mission, it all begins with the science. And for us, very often it means that we're looking for a target. So a target is a biological entity that we're going to try to hit because we believe that if we hit it correctly, it's going to be altering the course of the disease for patients. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of different strategies to actually be hitting a target. And for the sake of simplifying for that slide, I'm just going to focus on one of these strategies, which consists in creating some small compounds using chemistry. And once you have identified a promising target, this is a very much an iterative process where you're going to start by designing some compounds and you're going to look for the ones that have the properties that are the most interesting and important for you, right? So again, it's very iterative. And after a few rounds, you want to be selecting those compounds or this compound that you think is the best one and the most promising to become a drug candidate. So if you can go to the next slide, Mila. Yeah, thank you very much. So you really have the selection process. You look for a drug candidate, and there's a lot more knowledge and technical aspects that go into making this into a drug that can be then safely given to patients and whose potency can be assessed throughout clinical trials. And then ultimately you will get a medicine. As you can probably imagine, throughout this entire value chain, there is a lot of need for ML and AI to make the whole process more efficient, to come up with new ideas, test hypotheses, generate hypotheses, confirm them, etc., right? And with ML and AI comes MLOps. And this is really a need that we've observed in the pharmaceutical industry, in our organization now for a little while. However, what we've also seen is that it is actually very complex to implement. And this is what I'd like to convey now in the next couple of slides. And just to give you an idea of, one of the reasons for that complexity, I'm just going to show you in the next slide what this drug discovery process actually looks like, quote unquote, in real life, right? So what I showed you before, it's very schematic, a bit simplified. In reality, this is a bit of an overview of what we're dealing with. And even though we're just focusing mostly on discovery and early development, so the left-hand part of the slide here, you can see that there's a lot of different stages, a lot of phases, decision points, a lot of things go into making a drug and into that value chain, right? So it's very complex, it's very intricate. You do not need to read the whole slide. I think it's really for us to illustrate that the reality of drug discovery is complex. And on top of that, I think it's important to remember that there are different projects and drug discovery projects that are running at the same time, that are at different stages, different phases. So you really have this multi-layered complexity in the organization. And most of these stages actually need ML and need support from MLOps to be more efficient, to be faster, to be better. And I'd like to try to summarize now really the key problematic for us. So if you can go to the next slide, Milo, please. Yes. I just want to really, again, highlight the fact that in pharma research, we have 4 sort of key challenges. So the first one is that As you have seen, the process is very complex, and we have multiple drug projects in different disease areas and different stages, right? And what is meant by disease areas is that sometimes we have projects that are focusing on oncology, some are focusing on cardiovascular diseases, for example. And as you can imagine, they will have very different needs when it comes to ML and AI support, and also MLOps. We have various experts with different skills and different levels of technical literacy who produce and consume ML models throughout this entire value chain and the different stages. We have multiple systems and workflows with lots of interfaces that contain the key data that we actually need for our ML models. And as you can imagine, without proper integration, without proper access to this data, we do not go very far when it comes to ML and MLOps in general. Lastly, we have a very fragmented ML tooling landscape with lots of different offerings throughout the organization. And it's all very fluid. It changes very often. It's very dynamic, volatile. So we have to really deal with these 4 key challenges in our organization. Conversely, despite this, we'd like to, we've been looking at this for a solution that allows us to provide scalable and trustworthy ML predictions in the value chain. So it's very important for us that also those ML predictions or those AI and ML models are fully embedded in the drug discovery workflows and processes, because we really want to have those predictions in the right context for scientists in your organization to be able to use them to take better decisions, to progress drug projects, etc. We also want to be providing solutions that offer traceable and transparent ML model development and deployment. We're working in healthcare, so I hope this one is self-explanatory. Even if we're in the preclinical stages, I think it's very important to us that we have this traceability and transparency in place. We want to be sustainable when it comes to operational footprints and having reliable technology so that we can continuously deliver value via our ML solutions. Lastly, we're also very keen on introducing some healthy level of self-service so that we encourage the experts to learn new technologies, to learn how to use the new tools without having a very daunting, steep learning curve that might discourage them from taking the journey. And so again, right, so we've been wanting to make both ends meet and going from this very complex landscape into something that provides a lot of value for us. And this is why we've been looking for the silver bullet MLOps solution for a little while. We haven't really found it, but we have found some solutions that have helped us navigate this complex landscape. And this is what Muller will be talking about now, because we've learned a lot by building the solution and by using it. And Muller will be explaining this in a minute. So Muller, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christophe. Yes, in our hunt for the silver bullet enterprise MLOps solutions, we have tried both vendor solutions in the past and also an in-house solution as well. Yet, as Christophe mentioned, we have not found the silver bullet solution up till now. We have nevertheless collected a few valuable learnings for those who are building enterprise MLOps solutions. These learnings are actually none other than some fundamental, well-known architecture and design principles, but they seem to have proven to be those fundamentals that we would need to regularly revisit on our path to success. The first key learnings we would like to share today is long live Conway's law. For those of you who are less familiar with Conway's law, it simply describes the observed correlation between the architecture of a system usually embraced by an organization and the communication structure of that organization. What that means is that the correct modeling of interactions between personas in an organization is key for any system or solutions to be successful in that organization. Our modeling of the personas in pharma research includes mainly 3 protagonists. The first one, the model owner, who focus mainly on designing and producing ML models. Then second, we also have end users who would like to leverage and use these ML model predictions to make better decisions in drug discovery. And third, we also have MLOps engineers who help to make those models made by model owners consumable to the end users, as well as solving some of the operational challenges along the way. This modeling of the personas and interactions have served us well up to now. And the learnings we would like to share here is that A, do not model the end user and the model owner as the same persona. The person who produces the model usually sits in a different department as the one who consumes it. So thinking that somehow they're just the same group of scientists who produce ML models to solve the challenges they themselves face is a bit unrealistic. Based on our experience, the end user and the model owners usually have a very different sets of expectations from an enterprise MLOps solution, even though they might happen to be co-located even on the same floor of the office building. B, do not actually forget MLOps engineer. They exist in this picture, and it's much needed and appreciated in big enterprises. 10 years ago, when the DevOps model came out as you build it and you run it, people were all excited to try to embrace it. Today, 10 years later, the outcome of the DevOps movement in software industry is very mixed. And I think the main challenge there has been the daunting cognitive load and the skills expected from people who really practice it. Now for MLOps, which is to a certain extent piggybacking on DevOps, and then adding on top of that the complexity in managing the life cycle and the life cycle of a model and data artifacts is even more challenging. So sure, of course, there might be some unicorn data scientists who really can build a model and run a model. But based on our experience, the large majority of the model owners will still need the support of MLOps engineers to operationalize their model and bring the business value to the rest of the organization. C, since, as we have already mentioned, that there are 3 protagonists in this picture, they all equally deserve user-friendly toolings and documentations that addresses their different needs. So here I would really want to reiterate, they are all equally important if you want your enterprise MLOps solution to be successful. The second key learning is about API-first approach. Here, what we meant by the API-first approach is in the context of API versus UI. We've seen some MLOps solutions in the past that it invested a lot in having a very nice looking UI tuned towards a group of users who just want to click a few buttons and then have their solution running out of the box. But when it comes to integrating their MLOps solution into the system landscape in an enterprise, it behaves literally just like a black box, with no or few API endpoints available. I think a lot of people, pardon me, including myself, enjoy using a user-friendly UIs. But when you really want your MLOps solution to take root in an enterprise, particularly in pharma research, having a good and well-documented API is going to help you in the following 4 aspects, right? So first, interoperability. In pharma research, we usually face a vast number of digital touch points and integration points for functional calls or data exchange. And actually among them, I can say that we already have some hard to integrate systems serving in a niche area. Taking an API first approach for the MLOps solutions is going to make it easier to interoperate overall and actually also set a good example. Second is about extensibility. So no MLOps solution is tasked to solve all the problems in an enterprise, right? You will want to have a good API interface for your MLOps solution so that it can nurture some easy implementation of auxiliary microservices to fulfill certain small yet specific needs. Third is about reusability and discoverability. Per our assessment of the system landscape in pharma research, I can guarantee that a clean, well-designed, and documented API interface is going to make your solution stand out in the large software inventory and inviting to reuse. Fourth, testability. I think this one goes almost without saying. Having a good API is going to make testing, especially integration testing, a lot easier. The third key learnings we would like to share here is less is more. And by the way, this is also why we are only going to share 3 learnings today and not more. When we started our MLOps journey almost 4 years ago, we wanted to start small. So we found an MLOps stack template that we think is minimalistic enough to begin with. By the way, I think this template from Velohai is still being referenced quite frequently nowadays. But then when we start to assess what we really need for pharma research in Roche and try to fill in the blanks in this templates here, we noticed that we might not even need to find a solution for all of these components in an already minimalistic template. What I mean by that is that, for example, we did not even need to worry about tools for data analysis, as our data scientists are already using RStudio or Jupyter notebooks. Same goes for experimentation. We also didn't really have to worry about a feature store, as there are already, features calculated and stored in some databases. For code repository, we converged, group write to GitLab, so one less to consider. By going through this exercise, it actually dawned on us that an enterprise MLOps solution would need to be modular, granular, and flexible, which truly embraces a plugin architecture. We have seen quite a few vendor solutions which offers a rich list of features and components up front, as well as the possibility to add even more on top. I mean, this is great. However, in an enterprise where solution adoption always requires a momentum and proven record of value delivered, it would just be a lot faster and less overwhelming to go in with less features and plug in more later on as requirements evolves. To facilitate all that on a technical level, this means that having feature flags or feature toggles in your MLOps solution is pivotal. And another advantage of having a minimalistic list of enabled feature or components is that from an operational perspective, it would be easier to migrate when infrastructure upgrades comes along. Last but not least, please keep in mind that MLOps adoption is a journey in enterprise. Feature requirements changes as the adoption matures. No one can predict which features we will need in 3 years. Not even to be honest, not even a hallucinating GPT, right? In the end, I would like to share some outlook for our MLOps journey in pharma research. I think here a few numbers speaks louder than anything else to describe where we stand today. So far, our MLOps service. In our MLOps service, we have deployed more than 150 predictors, supported more than 8 business use cases. We generate more than 2 million predictions per month, which are directly incorporated in drug discovery projects. We have also integrated with 12 data products and expert systems in-house. Also, just to show you a little bit, of the diversity on the focus area from our business use cases, we're producing predictions on molecular properties, which helps our scientists to better plan experiments. We are producing classifications of microscopy images, which helps our scientists to select a specific type of cell lines. We're labeling news and scientific articles, which helps scientists to stay up to date with their relevant scientific content. And we can only expect the diversity and the number of business cases to continue to grow in the coming years. Therefore, in the face of the challenges mentioned in this talk and many more to come in the future, I think Christophe and I today would really like to invite everyone in this audience here to embark on this journey together in search for a sustainable silver bullet enterprise MLOps solution. And with that, I thank everyone for your attention, and I think the floor now is open for questions. Okay, let's see if there's any comments or questions in the chat.
There's a few coming up. Okay, so should we take in the? Let's take them in the order, Muller. So, what's your take on mixed data science and MLOps team? So yeah, that's a very good question. I can share. I mean, what we've observed is that when the most successful business cases or use cases that we've onboarded and the ones that have driven the biggest impact so far are the ones where the teams between data scientists and ML engineers can work very well together. I think this is, if you can create this sort of really a team spirit and have, you know, this sense of achieving the same goal together, from a data science perspective, but also from an ops and MLOps perspective, I think it really is transformative. So that we've observed on several occasions. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Muller.
No, I think that's already a very good answer, right? I think basically it's a matter of meeting somewhere in the middle, right? You know, at the end of the day, and also I think we understand that in big enterprises, meeting in the middle might not always be something really incentivized, you know, or amply, I would say. So I think, you know, here it would actually take a bit of initiative from both sides and going out of the comfort zone and actually trying to, you know, achieve, you know, the business value, you know, for the enterprise overall.
Yeah. I think the next one will probably be for you, Muller. So how do you currently track versioning of various pipeline runs?
Yes, so currently also to share a little bit more on the tech stack, right? You know, currently we're using Kubeflow pipelines. So it's an open source components there. And so it does actually, you know, have these type of versioning, you know, pretty much out of the box. And then also, you know, we are actually hooking that, you know, the pipeline. Sorry, we're actually producing all the pipeline artifacts, you know, from our CI/CD pipeline, and then once actually, you know, a new version of the pipeline is actually compiled, you know, it would actually incrementally increase the version, and so is the executions of each single, you know, pipeline runs as well. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, so I'm going to the next one. So do you actually expect a silver bullet to exist, or is the point to strive for one? That's a very good question. So we don't know if it already exists. We haven't fully found it yet, at least not that works like that for us, but I think we could always try to strive for one. I think it doesn't hurt. And especially in all seriousness, I think we're hoping that as the technologies mature, right, on certain fronts, that it might help us, you know, get there, right, or simplify some aspects of the ops part of ML that are still quite complex and require deep technical skills that, you know, we need to provide in the organization. So that's, yeah, where we are at the moment. I think we have another question about the tech stack. So where has that led you to currently as far as stacks and tools used? Muller, do you want to comment a bit on that?
Yeah. I would have to say that this is not a very simple answer. You know, there's a long story behind that, right? You know, because it's a long journey, and also, to be honest, we switched from a vendor solution to an in-house, you know, a solution. There has been some of these concerns while migrating different things, which also limited a little bit of our technology choice at that point. But actually, currently, the stack that we have actually put together pretty much is a kind of a best of breed approach. And we're leveraging heavily a lot of the open source solutions and, you know, for different type of purposes. And so far, it actually serves us pretty well, and especially in terms of meeting the expectations around the scalability, reliability, and also observability.
Yeah,
I don't
thanks for
know,
having me.
Christophe, if there's anything that you would also like to add.
No, I think you covered it very well. So yeah, if you want more details about that, I think it was Sam that asked the question. Just reach out to us, and then we can take it separately. All right. So the next question is I thought that's a good one. Have you seen better results from paid or free open source, or not much difference from what you've tried? I would say I don't know if there is a general rule, Muller. I think because we've been combining different aspects. We've tried a lot with open source, but we're quite happy about it. But we've also had part of the stacks that were paid solutions, right? And that we're doing sometimes something very specific and doing it very well. And we were happy about that, right? So I wouldn't say there is a one size fits all. What we have seen in certain cases, right? And this is what you alluded to, Muller, is that wanting to provide a lot, certain solutions were actually really diluting the impact of what they were providing, and it was not then always ideal for us. We have also seen the opposite, which is that certain solutions were extremely focused on certain aspects, right? And then we had to combine a lot, and that was projecting a lot of complexity onto our data scientists, our model owners as well, which is something we're trying to reduce, right? So I wouldn't say there is a clear rule. Muller, do you want to add anything from your experience as well?
No, I think man, you captured it all. I think that was very well put.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. That was a great one. So the next one is, so could you describe how the teams at Roche are structured? You mentioned that DS and ML engineers are in separate teams. Do you have the DS team that serves business units? That's also a very good question. So I would say we have a bit of everything around us at the moment. So we do have data science teams that are very close to some business units. So for example, in oncology research, we're going to have some data scientists that are working directly day to day, right, with the folks there and part of the same org chart as well, so to say. We're going to have data science teams that are a little bit more centralized across different units and that are providing some support and tools that are helping different areas of the business. And we also have, and we are providing a service as a team. So we are, also providing something central, but having touch points with all of these, right? So we are I would say, in a rather very complex super matrix kind of framework at the moment, where we have a lot of touch points with very different teams and very different personas. So I'm not sure if this is what you were hoping for as an answer, but the landscape is quite complex, I would say, and it evolves constantly. Yeah, you're welcome.
And that's why, actually, also coming back to our talk here, the modeling of such such type of persona is really the key there, right? Especially we couldn't really use any, to be honest, existing departmental org chart or whatever to model that, and it would not really fly at all. And I think so far these models that we have actually found serve us well, but hey, these type of thing is never once and for all, and maybe there will also be some evolutions around that as well.
Yeah. All right. So we have one other question. So thanks for the questions, by the way. That's great. So how about progress reporting and measuring results? Do you have solutions or best practices in place? Yes, so we do report this and we are measuring results. So I'm assuming you're talking about impact in that sense on the business. So we are reporting this, measuring this. We are experimenting with different metrics. We have not fully settled on one versus the other. So we're still experimenting. So for example, we want to see, we're working a lot with other solution owners or system owners that we integrate with to understand how often our predictions are used to take a decision, right, to progress a project to the next stages, right? So sounds trivial. It is not in practice in the enterprise setup. We're tracking things like this, how often certain clients are requesting some predictions when they're using interactive tools, for example, right, to design compounds. So again, we're very much exploring. It depends a lot at the moment on the part of the value chain we're targeting and we're helping, and it's still evolving. So we haven't yet fully solved that one, but we are continuously learning, collecting data and information. Muller, do you want to add something about that?
No, I think there's nothing to add, and I think our time has run up for that. So maybe I think for anyone who's interested in exchanging a bit more ideas and so on, please feel free to reach out to us on the conference apps and so on and so forth, and then we could probably continue our conversations there.
Definitely. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, and have a great conference ahead.
Yes, enjoy. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.